Interstate 89. Yeah. Alright, Interstate 89 is a totally beautiful road pretty much the whole way through. We're getting to 2 new states today, New Hampshire and Vermont. So that'll bring us up to 45. We've only got 3 more to go in the lower 48, and we won't get to those till I-95. I-89, as we see, is kind of a diagonal that goes across New Hampshire and Vermont the opposite way of the state line, starting in Concord and ending at the Canadian border just north of St. Albans in Vermont, along the shores of Lake Champlain. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about interstate highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? Yeah, and if you really dig it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. Let's talk about northbound I-89. So first off, let's start out down in Manchester. We're meeting 293, and we get signs for I-89 when we're not even to Concord yet, so that's pretty cool. We get North 93 to 89, Concord. And also note that this is a toll road. Not the, just a. And we're getting our toll booth up ahead, and it's $1. Wow. That's a bargain for the Northeast. That's amazing. And here we are in the Concord area, and we are getting our exit for North 89, signed for Lebanon and White River Junction, Vermont. Not exactly household names here, but New Hampshire, Vermont, these are big places up there, I guess. We see at random interchanges, North 89 is signed for New London and Lebanon. And here we split with 202 for Keene. This is actually as far as I've ever been on 89. From the 93 junction to 202, and we are now signed 89 north for Lebanon and Vermont. If you don't know the area, you might think it was Lebanon, Vermont, because Lebanon is not too famous of a place. Vermont is our second control city here. And we see now our first mileage sign, we get Warner and Lebanon, and it interchanges. Now we get North 89 for just Lebanon. As I said, beautiful road, just stunning scenery, just pretty much anywhere you drop a pin on this road, it just looks fantastic. So I'd like to drive it quite a bit more. I've not spent much time in New England as a whole, and certainly not New Hampshire and Vermont. And now we're getting Lebanon 20 miles away, so we're getting pretty close as we continue through these mountains here. This is the general Lebanon area, and we see this is exit 17, so we are again doing ordinal exits instead of mileage-based exits. I know roads in the Northeast are kind of older, things got built early there, but they've had plenty of time to catch up with the rest of the country with this ordinal numbers stuff. It's just horrible. Go with actual mileage-based exits. And we see we're on North 89 to I-91 and Vermont. I don't know why they can't give us a proper Vermont control city other than just Vermont, but okay. And now we cross the Connecticut River, so we will be heading into Vermont after this. And here it is, our Welcome to Vermont sign. Pretty good sign there, I'd have to say. As soon as we get into Vermont, we meet I-91, so we see 91 signed south for Brattleboro and north for White River Junction. White River Junction has like 2,000 people, and it's pretty much right where we are anyway. I feel like north should be something else, maybe St. Johnsbury or something. South should probably be Springfield, Mass, because that's a much bigger place than Brattleboro. We had no pull through on I-89 at that last thing, but we do see on 91 it is signed for 89 North Montpelier. Not a big city, but it is the capital, so that'll do. And we see Montpelier is the bottom line city here at 53 miles away. We meet US 4 for Woodstock and Rutland, and we see this is mile point exit 3 and regular exit 1. So Vermont is doing the ordinal thing too. Come on, Northeast. Catch up. Here we meet US 2, and it is signed for Montpelier. This is the only exit for Montpelier. Like I say, it's not a very big city. From the Montpelier interchange, though, we do get 89 North Burlington signed at the interchange ramp. And on the mileage sign, Burlington is on the bottom line at 36 miles away. Biggest city in Vermont, so that absolutely makes sense. We meet 189, I-89's only child route, and there's not much to that. We'll check that on the southbound route. And 189 to 7, Burlington and Shelburne. In Burlington, we meet US 2, and now we are going to be signed for North St. Albans, which is quite small. I'm not sure why that is the pick, but there's really not too much else up there, so I'm all right with it. I suppose there's the city and town of St. Albans, which are each about 6,000, so a 12,000 person area in this part of Vermont is pretty big. We get Lake Champlain Islands 12 and St. Albans 24. At this interchange, we get 89 North, Georgia, St. Albans, and Montreal. So 3 control cities on there. Seems like a bit much. I don't know why Georgia's there. That's a pretty small place. And it interchanges further north. We get 89 North, Swanson, and Canada. Again, I thought that was Swanson, Canada, because I've never heard of Swanson before. I have no idea if that's in Vermont or Canada. I had to look further down the road to find this out. I imagine Vermonters would know this, but any sort of long distance traffic that might be on this road might assume that Swanson is a place in Canada based on this sign. And now we get Swanson 6, Montreal 69. Nice. Swanson being the last development of any kind before the Canadian border. And after Swanson, now we get Canada border 6, Montreal 63. Here's the Canadian border. It looks like there was a way to just go through without going through U.S. Customs, but this is, of course, from 2007, like all of the border street views are. I'm sure it must look a lot different now. And we do have to go through the immigration checkpoint once we get to Canada, so we see the Canadian side here. Which means it's time to turn around south and head south on 89. We're going to start in the Montreal area, though, just like we did for 87. So we see 10 east for 91 and 35 south for 89. So a couple of U.S. interstates getting on this interchange in Canada. And we see 89 assigned for Vermont, which from Canada does make sense because there's no big cities in Vermont to sign. And here is where we will cross the border and we will be in the US after this. And so we are on I-89 proper now, and we see Swanson 6, St. Albans 12. We're starting with St. Albans. We should start with Burlington. Signing St. Albans north is okay because there's nothing up there, but going south, Burlington, biggest city in the state. From right here, we can kind of see Lake Champlain. We're going along it for a lot of this northern part of 89, but you can't really see it other than this one section. And at random interchanges here, St. Albans 9, Burlington 37. I guess it's okay if you have 2, but yeah, having just St. Albans on there would be no good. And now St. Albans 8, Burlington 36. So we are putting the major metropolis of Vermont on the mileage sign here. In St. Albans, we see 89 South Burlington, north, that Swanson, Canada sign we saw earlier. And as I said, 89 just lovely anywhere you are, especially when they split it into 2 different carriageways like this. It looks especially beautiful, but really nice road. We're coming into Burlington, so we have that interchange with US 2 once again, and through traffic, a literal through traffic sign. For all those crazy traffic jams in Vermont. I don't know. Why not just put a control city there instead? We're meeting 189, and this time around we're going to get off on 189. We get off at the exit for 189, and well, there's no more exits. It is literally pretty much an off-ramp. It is the most off-rampiest off-ramp 3-digit interstate that I think I've ever seen. There is nothing to it. We just hit this stoplight for US 7 after a very short distance. So going the other way, we get 189 for 89. We do actually get a cloverleaf type ramp to go that way on 189. And we meet I-89 and we get 2 control cities on 89, north, Winooski, St. Albans, south, Williston, Montpelier. But those secondaries, those are pretty small places. And we see Williston is 6 miles away, Montpelier 35. Here's our exit for Montpelier once again, for Montpelier and St. Johnsbury. Wow, big cities in Vermont. And we'll have a new control city after this. At this interchange, we get 89 North Burlington and South White River Junction. White River Junction does not have a lot of people in it at all. I didn't think this was a great control city, but then it is the intersection with I-91. I do understand Vermont signing it here because you can go a couple different ways on 91 and 89. White River Junction, now the bottom line, and it is 54 miles away. Don't want to sign anything in New Hampshire prematurely. We meet I-91, and I-91 is signed for White River Junction. Again, confusing because we're already there. And Brattleboro, and 89 south for Concord, NH. After crossing the river, we get this Welcome to New Hampshire sign, although I couldn't find one that was actually on mainline I-89. This one is a ways away on the frontage road, so maybe the 89 one is under construction or something, so this was a little far away. But we do get that awesome live free or die, so that's a cool slogan. At this random interchange, we get South 89 for Enfield and Concord. Concord on the bottom line here, so that makes sense. And we are going to be meeting I-93 in a quarter mile, so it is signed for Concord and Manchester, which also makes sense. Bigger cities in New Hampshire, and we're not quite actually to downtown Concord yet on I-89. And so we see going straight, we're going to have the interchange for North 93 and 393 for Concord and Portsmouth, not sure. And 93 south of Manchester, Boston. Throwing Boston on there is a nice move. I like that. And also this is again a toll road. I love that indefinite article there. That's great. And we get our Cloverleaf Loop for 93 and 393. Straight ahead, we're going to be on State Highway 3A for Bow Junction, or Bow Junction. Not sure. We don't get an 89N sign, but we do get a South 89 mile 0. So that will be sufficient for ending I-89. All right, let's take a look at Todd's The Way It Should Be on Interstate 89. The way it should be, in my opinion, northbound Lebanon. I messed around with this for a while. I couldn't quite think of what the best northbound would be. I thought maybe Hanover. It's more famous because you've got the university there. But Lebanon is the bigger city. It's kind of the main part of that New Hampshire, Vermont metro area that also has White River Junction in it. So I guess Lebanon is kind of the best pick for New Hampshire. Then Montpelier, Burlington, St. Albans, as I said, because there's just nothing else up there. So 12,000 people's a lot for that area in northern Vermont. And then finally, Montreal is the way it should be. Southbound, I would definitely skip St. Albans southbound and go right to Burlington, then Montpelier, then White River Junction. You could be going south on 91 or south on 89 from that point. I imagine it's a roughly equal split. And then finally, the capital of New Hampshire would be the final control city for I-89. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. And whew, we've got a big one coming up. It's going to be more than 2 parts, I can assure you that. It's going to be a big look at I-90 coming soon. Going to try to get it next week, but there's a lot of work to do for I-90, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully next week I will see you with the beginning of I-90. Until then, my name is Todd. Keep on trucking.